All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Mindset Monday. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. We'll be joined shortly by my awesome partner, Mr. Benal. Hope everybody's doing well today on this beautiful Monday. As always, let's turn off all distractions, grab a pen and paper, let's take lots of notes. Let's make sure that we participate and engage. And as always, I want to start our day off by taking massive action. That action stands for accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, preparing you for any outcome, centering yourself, body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, trusting education, strategy, trade skills, and intuition. Imagine your trade successfully materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back or stopping once your trade has commenced. All right. So let's get down to it. If everybody can hear me okay, drop me one in the chat and we'll get things rocking. Perfect. Appreciate it. All right. All right. Let's get to it. Uh, all right. Good people. Today, this session, it's about unlocking the code, unlocking the code of your internal operating system. All right. We're we're not just going to talk about what you want, right? We're going to figure out how you've been running your internal pattern and how to change them permanently, right? Last time we met, we talked about patterns, right? Talked about um we talked about the strategies. We're going to dig deeper into those, right? So let me ask you this. Have you ever felt motivated out of nowhere? Like, where did this come from? Right? Or procrastinated even when you wanted to get something done? Absolutely. We all have. It happens daily sometimes, right? It's not random, right? It happens because you ran a strategy. Success leaves clues, and so does failure. So today we're going to decode these emotional strategies, right? And we're going to identify the invisible sequences that trigger your state. We're going to reverse engineer how you create patterns like doubt, overwhelm, and confidence. And then we're going to install new strategies that create power on command. All right. So let's get to it. First, what is a strategy? What is a strategy? A strategy is a specific set of steps or ingredients, specific set of steps or ingredients that produce a consistent result, like a recipe, right? Just like baking a cake. You need the right ingredients in the right amounts, in the right sequence, cooked at the right temperature. And guess what? You get a cake. Human behavior works exactly the same, right? Whether you feel love, stress, confidence, Doubt. You used a specific internal recipe that got you there, right? You don't just fall into a state. You arrive there because you unknowingly ran a strategy, right? A recipe is your strategy. Repeating the same internal processes over and over and over again until they become automatic, right? Here's the catch though. Most people are running old strategies that were downloaded unconsciously from childhood or from culture or from survival moments without even checking in and checking to see if those strategies still serve them today, right? So this session is about making those invisible strategies visible and then redesigning them on purpose. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down the components of every single strategy, right? I'm going to break it down into 4 steps. And there are 4 major components, right? Or ingredients to your internal cake, right? Your emotional strategy. The first ingredient is modality, right? What sense you use, right? We we experience the world and ourselves through our senses, right? We know this. These include visual, right? What you see internally and what you see externally. What you hear, auditory, right? What you hear internally, right? That internal voice, sounds, tone from others and even yourself, right? And what you also hear as you speak, right? Kinesthetic, right? These are all of your senses. Kinesthetic, what you feel in your body, right? Do you feel tightness? Do you feel lightness? Do you feel a different temperature, right? What you feel, what are the kinesthetics of the situation, right? And then olfactory or gustatory, what you smell or taste, right? Less common, but still impactful, depending on the nature of the situation, right? Especially for trauma or deep emotional memory, right? So you got visual, what you see, auditory, what you hear, what does it look like? What does it sound like? Kinesthetic, what does it feel like? Olfactory, what does it taste like? Gustatory, what does it smell like? Right? So your 5 senses are the first ingredient to your strategy, right? And these are the primary channels that your brain uses to replay emotional experiences, right? Most people are dominant in one of these modalities, right? And that becomes their default filter for life. It becomes the default filter for life, right? So as you go through other experiences, you filter through that same, what is it, this doesn't make me feel well, right? That didn't feel good, or that looks scary, right? For life, that's your default because it subconsciously, right? So the second ingredient is submodalities, right? Submodalities, these are the details of each modality, right? See, hear, smell, taste, feel, right? These are the submodalities that determine the intensity and the meaning for each experience. So you got modalities, which is the primary filter. Then you have submodalities. These are the details of that primary modality that determine the intensity and the meaning of the experience, right? For example, visual submodalities, right? Is the image you see in your mind bright or dim, right? Is it moving or is it still? Is it in color or is it in black and white? These details, they determine how strongly it affects you emotionally, right? For your auditory submodalities, right? Is the voice you hear loud or is it soft? Is it high pitched or is it deep? Is your voice, or is it your voice or is it someone else's voice, right? Is it, are they speaking fast or are they speaking slow? Those are the submodalities for the auditory, what you hear, right? Kinesthetic submodalities is is the feeling heavy or is it light, right? Where is it located in your body, right? Do you feel it in your shoulders? Do you feel it in your lower back? Do you feel tightness in your chest, right? Is it moving? Is the feeling moving throughout your body or is it still in one spot? Is it pulsing or is it steady? Those are kinesthetic modalities, right? These submodalities, they act like dials on your internal experience, right? And once you learn to adjust them, you can change how powerful a memory or a thought feels, right? Some modalities are the dial on the temperature, right? The dial on the stove as you turn the heat up or down, right? So you got modalities and you got submodalities. First two ingredients. The third ingredient is syntax, right? The order and the sequence. Third ingredient is the order and the sequence, or the syntax, right? So just like a phone number, if you get the order wrong, it doesn't work, right? Grouping we talked about, right? The order and the sequence, right? So the sequence in which your brain runs these modalities, it matters. So for example, if your strategy for feeling anxious starts with seeing a mental picture of something going wrong, followed by hearing your inner critic, followed by a tightness in your chest, your brain knows this pattern. And so your brain is going to tell you, I feel anxious. I'm anxious. I have anxiety, right? But if you change the order, you interrupt the pattern. You change the order, you interrupt the pattern. It's different for your body. Your body doesn't know that as anxiety. Now you can change the feeling. You can change the emotion. You can change the experience. So that's the syntax, right? And the fourth ingredient is the physiology. Your body is the oven that you put the cake in, right? Think of your body as the emotional amplifier, right? Your posture, your facial expressions, your breathing, and even micro movements tell your nervous system what state to enter, right? We think of these things as just natural things that happen throughout the day and they don't mean anything, but they actually do, right? They all give your body, your nervous system signals, right? Slouch, breathe shallow, and look down. You send your brain a message, shut down. Stand tall, breathe deep, smile. You send your brain, we've got this. I'm confident, right? Physiology is the fastest way to shift your emotional state. Change your physiology, right? You change the message that your body's getting. Example, strategy for confidence. See a future image of you winning, visual, internal, right? You got internal, you got external, right? You're visualizing you winning in the future. You hear your inner voice say, let's go. Auditory, internal, right? You're talking to yourself, that internal voice. Feel energy in your chest, kinesthetic, internal, inside, right? Body upright, breathing deep, physiology, right? That's a recipe for confidence. Run the sequence daily, and your internal rewiring your brain for power. You're changing what your nervous system feels in the labels of each of those categories, each of those ingredients, right? This is this is neuroscience and how your body actually works and how it responds, right? When you repeat the sequence with emotional intensity, you reinforce neural pathways in your brain, right? The greater the emotion, the deeper the pathway. You're literally training your nervous system to default into a sequence. This, the most successful people in the world, right? They're not winging it. They're not winging it. They're running strategies consciously or unconsciously that produce consistent results. Ray Allen, one of my favorite shooters of all time in the NBA. He's done interviews where he's talked about the routines that he has down to what shoe he puts, what sock he puts on first, and how he ties his shoes. And if that gets thrown off, his body is thrown off, his rhythm is thrown off. It's his system, it's his strategy, right? It's his recipe for success. And he can feel when it's off. In the game, he can feel when it's off. And he has a pattern to reset himself, right? Or he had a pattern to reset himself. In the game, if he felt like it was off, his strategy to reset his pattern was to get to the free throw line, get fouled and get to the free throw line so I can shoot free throws. If I can get to the free throw line and shoot free throws, I can reset I can interrupt the old pattern and reset the new pattern so that I can be back in alignment with what my body knows, right? If your life is a series of patterns, your job is to become a pattern architect, to build patterns and systems, strategies, recipes that get you specific results, right? Today, we're starting by mastering the strategies that shape our emotions and our behavior and our identity, right? So why does this matter so much? Why does this matter so much, Ryan? Why do these strategies matter? 95% of the results you get in life come from subconscious strategies. 95% of the things you do on a daily basis are all subconscious. Sit with that for a second. 95% of the results you get in your life come from subconscious strategies. You're not just winging it either, right? Your winning strategies that your nervous system has memorized is what you're running on, right? You're running strategies that your nervous system has memorized, right? The way you fall into a slump is a strategy. The way you get fired up before a big meeting is a strategy. The way you avoid risk, delay action, or light up with joy are all strategies. This is what most people don't realize. Your procrastination strategy is just as rehearsed as your motivation strategy. Your mind and your body are like highly programmable computers. They are highly programmable computers. That's your technology, right? Except no one gave you the manual. That's what we're doing today. We're going through the manual of this thing called our body and our brain and our mind to understand the code that sets the program, right? You already have a love strategy, a money strategy, even a sabotage strategy, right? You've been practicing these things for years. They were taught to you by someone. That someone was also taught those strategies by someone or some experience. And it could have come from a broken experience or it could have come from a healed experience. But most people just don't know they're running them because they've never mapped it out. They've never had this conversation. Our world today, we're all broken people. We're all broken in different ways. We've had experiences, good, bad, and different, that have shaped us to where we are, and we're going through experiences that are also shaping where we're going, but we don't understand how we're perceiving those and how we're responding to those and how we filter those. And so we have people in this world that are broken and they don't understand why. They don't understand how they got there, and they don't know that they can change that to get out of it. And so they're either choosing to hurt other people or hurt themselves. But once you understand the map, once you understand the code, now you can take control. Now you can install what actually works, and you can disrupt what doesn't. Let me make this real with a couple examples. Stress strategy, right? This is the one you run when a deadline is approaching. You see the clock ticking down. Visual, external, outside of your body. You say, I'm not ready. Auditory, internal, right? You feel pressure in your chest, kinesthetic, internal. Your shoulders slump, your breathing is shallow, physiology. Boom, you're in a stress state. Your heart rate increases, your palms are sweaty. Now you're fumbling around trying to figure out what tool to use to figure out how to meet that deadline. And I can't do it. I'm running late. I'm behind. I'm behind. I'm behind. And all you're focused on is being behind. And you're continuing to repeat this pattern of looking at the clock. I'm not ready. Feel the pressure in your chest. You slump over further and further and further. You didn't wake up that way. You built it on command. That's power misdirected. Now contrast it with this. Sales confidence strategy. This is what you run before you close a deal or give a presentation, right? Hear a song that pumps you up, gets you excited. Auditory external. Visualize the client saying yes. Visual internal. Say, this is what I do. I close deals. Auditory internal. Chest high, breathing deep, activating the parasympathetic nervous system to relax your body. Boom, we're ready to go. We're ready to close the deal, right? The only difference between stress and power is the sequence, the sensory input, and the physiology. All things that you have control over. That's the difference. Let's go deeper. Visuals, what you focus on, right? Visually, what you see, whether it's the clock, the client's face, or your own mental movie, shapes the direction of your state, right? You get what you focus on, right? Auditory cues, right? Your inner voice has a tone, has a tempo, has a script. It's it's your internal hype man, right? It's your internal hype man or the one that's cutting you down, your hater, right? The kinesthetics of it all, where do you feel the emotion in your body, right? Is it in your gut? Is it in your chest? What is it telling you, right? And physiology, right? What are you doing with your shoulders? What are you doing with your breath? What are you doing with your posture? Are you in a collapse state or are you in command, right? The problem is, the problem is you're often using other people's strategies by default. That's the primary problem, right? Maybe your mom's strategy for being productive was stress driven and a perfectionist. Maybe your boss's strategy for motivation is shame and pressure. Maybe your culture or upbringing reinforced anxiety as a form of responsibility, right? Your nervous system doesn't your nervous system doesn't respond to someone else's blueprint. You have to figure out what drives you, right? Because just because that's their blueprint and that's what got them through doesn't mean you're going to get the same result that they got, right? Because the way you perceive it is going to be different. And your experience is different. A lot of those strategies of stress driven, of shame and pressure, of anxiety, a lot of those strategies were safety mechanisms. They were created in a traumatic experience, and they needed to use those to keep them safe. You're not in danger. You're not in danger. So that strategy doesn't work for you. That strategy doesn't work for you. That strategy came from a broken person in a traumatic experience. You don't have to be that. You don't have to be that. You've got to figure out what drives you and what works for you in your unique wiring, in your current state, in your current experience. that isn't based on trauma. So we have to reverse engineer your best strategies. That's the solution, right? And this is where things shift. Think back to a moment when you felt completely confident, fully energized, deeply connected, calm, focused, and in flow, right? Think about that for a second. Think about a moment where you felt completely confident, fully energized, deeply connected, calm, focused, and in just a flow state. What did you see? What were you telling yourself? How were you breathing? How were you moving? That's your signature strategy for power. When you become aware of it, you can replicate it. When you replicate it, you can condition it. When you condition it, it becomes your identity. So from this point forward, you're not allowed to say, I don't know why I feel this way. You are no longer able, you are no longer allowed to say, I don't know why I feel this way. You do know you're running a strategy, and today you start designing better ones, right? You start identifying how you got to feeling the way that you feel, and you then determine if that's how you desire to feel. And if it's not, you change the strategy. You walk back, you figure out what steps you took that got you feeling that way, because now you know how to change it. So let's make this a little bit more practical. We want to go from awareness. We understand now. We understand the code, right? We went through the coding course. We understand what the lines and the symbols and we understand what they all mean. Now we have to put it into action. We have to write our own code now. This is the part that most people skip because this is where the real rewiring happens, right? The recoding, the reconditioning. If you want to change your outcomes, whether it's how you show up in business, your relationships, your confidence, your focus, it starts with installing a new strategy into your nervous system. Not metaphorically, but physically, right? Your brain learns through repetition and association, right? So we're going to break this down step by step so that we understand the steps in the process, the recipe for creating new strategies and installing them. Step number one is identify the emotional state. Ask yourself, what emotional state do I want more of? What emotional state do I want more of? Do I want more confidence? Do I want to be more calm? Do I want more certainty? Do I want more joy? Do I want more drive? Be very specific. Don't just say better. What does that mean? Better compared to what? Right? Say, I want to feel more focused before a sales call. Right? I want to feel more calm when I start to feel overwhelmed. Right? When you get specific, your brain can build a strategy that serves your actual needs. not just a vague hope, right? Because you're giving it a direction, you're giving it a focus. Remember, where focus goes, energy flows. You start to see those opportunities more, right? When you name the state, you claim the power to shape it. When you name the state, you claim the power to shape it. You're giving your reticular activation system a direction, a thing that's important. So I'm going to now identify all of these things that are important, being specific. Step number two is recall a peak moment, right? So now you ask yourself, when have I felt this emotion before? That emotion that I desire to feel is step number one. When have I felt that before, right? Even if it was just once, that's enough, right? Your nervous system already has that blueprint. You just need to bring it back online, right? So when have I felt this emotion that I desired before? And then you replay the scene vividly in detail. What did I see? What did I hear? What did I feel? What did I smell? What did I taste? Who was I with? What were we doing? What beliefs were active in that moment, right? Every fabricated or imagined moment can work because your brain doesn't know what's real or fake. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between real and vivid imagination. So you can create the energy, you can create the experience that you desire. Step number three, extract the sequence, pull out the strategy, right? Your emotions happen in order. Your emotions happen in order. There's a recipe, a sequence that you follow. Maybe it started with a visual, right? You saw yourself succeeding, followed by an auditory cue, your inner voice saying, let's go, let's get it. Then a sensation or an energy in your chest. It has an order. So now we're going to write that down. What's that sequence? What's that strategy? What happened first? What happened second? What happened third? What happened fourth? Why does this matter, Ryan? If you know the order, you can recreate the experience on command, just like a recipe. You follow the recipe step by step. Step number four, you anchor it, right? You anchor it with movement and language. This is where you really begin to lock that state into your nervous system, into your neurology, right? Your body is your most powerful tool for transformation, right? You can attach it to movements that trigger your nervous system. So do one of the following, right? Touch your wrist or your knuckles, right? Snap your fingers, clench your fists, take a deep power breath, or make a power pose or power move, right? Pumping of your fist, something that will lock that in, that when you do it, it reminds you of the state that you're going to, right? And as you do the motion or speak the new identity, right? I'm grounded, I'm focused, I'm unstoppable, right? I'm grounded, I'm focused, I'm unstoppable, right? So now you're connecting them. You're connecting the emotion, you're connecting the words, and you're connecting the actions, right? So you're what happens is in this process, what happens is your brain links emotion to motion, right? Your brain links emotion to motion. When you pair a specific movement with a peak emotional state and repeat it over and over and over again, it becomes a neurological trigger, right? Here's a bonus tip. Use a strong I am in your language. Your identity now starts to lead your actions. I am is one of the most powerful word combinations in the human language, right? But you're connecting that to the neurological trigger. I am grounded. I am focused. I am powerful. Step number 5, repeat and condition multiple times daily. Repeat and condition multiple times daily. This is extremely important, and this is where most people don't get it right. And this is the difference between inspiration and transformation. You can't do it once and expect it to stick. Repetition plus emotion equals installation. Repetition plus emotion equals installation. You have to anchor it every day, right? You didn't get to the negative emotional state doing it one time. You repeated that negative story over and over and over and over and over again to ingrain it in your nervous system. So you have to do the exact same thing for power, for confidence, for excitement, for joy. You have to do it over and over and over and over and over again to ensure that it's installed in your nervous system. Repeat that power story over and over and over and over and over again to ensure that it's installed in your nervous system. Before a call, when you wake up, after a win, after a struggle, before a workout, repeat the power story, right? Revisit the strategy. Revisit the strategy. Feel the emotion, fire the anchor, the power move. You're literally rewriting the way you show up in the world. You have that power. You don't get what you want, you get who you are. You don't get what you want, you get what your standards are. Standards are built from your strategies. They're built from your strategies, right? Power doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the strategies you install into your nervous system on the inside. You just built it one day at a time. You got to run it, repeat it, and run it and repeat it. And then make it who you are. That's how we change the subconscious strategies in our life and change the direction that we're going, change the emotions that we feel, the experiences that we have, and the things that we see in the world. We've got to change our strategies. We've got to install those strategies. So, the people, what did we learn today? What did we learn today? You already have strategies running in your life, number one, right? They're not random, they're repeatable. And once you become the strategist in your life, not just the actor, everything changes. So, your actions for this week, this is your homework. Pick one emotional strategy that you want to upgrade. Pick one emotional strategy you want to upgrade. Reverse engineer it, anchor it with a power move, power statement, power phrase. Repeat it until it becomes who you are. You don't need hype. You don't need more time. You need a strategy that serves you. Now you know how to create it. Let's go apply it and let's own this week. That's Mindset Monday, good people. Floor is open. Thoughts, feedback, questions.
What up, though?
Joy, what's the deal?
Slow motion. So a lot of things that I started to pick out for things that I couldn't answer for my I don't knows, and I got an answer for myself. So I want to thank you.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Kudos to you. Kudos to you for doing the work. I love it. Anything else? No?
Ryan, can you repeat that homework assignment one more time for me?
Yes, sir. Homework assignment is pick a strategy, an emotional strategy that you want to upgrade. You're going to reverse engineer it, right? Identify when you felt it last or at any point when you felt it. And then reverse engineer it. What happened to allow you to feel that, right? And then you anchor that in current state, right? You write that strategy down step by step. And then you repeat that strategy. You condition it and you anchor it with a power move or a power statement, right? And then you repeat it until it becomes who you are.
Got it. Thanks, man. Great
You're welcome.
session.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you big time, man. All right, good people. Listen, man. That that is the blueprint. That's the blueprint. So let's go make it happen this week. Let's change one emotional strategy and let's anchor it so that it empowers us and it moves us in the direction that we desire to go to become the person that we desire to be in this world. That's Mindset Monday. Have a phenomenal day. Peace.